Can Treyarch just catch a break already? Or really, a more accurate way to say this is, could Activision stop screwing over Treyarch year after year, game after game? Because it's honestly not good for anybody involved. They got the name of Treyarch, which was held high by so many people, and they drug it through the mud by putting them into impossible situations, and of course this results in a poor product, of course, affecting us as consumers. And it just really sucks because so many of us know what Treyarch can do when they have everything they need to make a game successful, but unfortunately that just constantly doesn't seem to be the case. But I'm sure there are people out there who are unaware of what exactly has been happening with Treyarch, especially over their last two games releases, and unfortunately it seems like may continue to be going forward with their next release, which is unfortunate. But I want to share the story with you, hopefully quick, probably not, but we're going to try to go over this story and find out exactly why Treyarch's games still haven't seemed to be as good as they were since Black Ops 3. So this story starts with Black Ops 4, the game that came after Black Ops 3, quite obviously, right? And how this all happened is that earlier in the development of this game, Treyarch was working on the campaign. Now, the keen eye among you guys may realize that, hey, wait a minute, Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign, and that would be completely accurate. Congratulations, you are a very intelligent person. But this is exactly what happened in that campaign, because they had an early build of the campaign, and it was going to be very, very different from any other campaign we've seen before or since. And we don't know exactly how it was going to work, but from the little bit of information we got here and there, we got a little bit of an idea. It was not going to be like a traditional campaign. Instead, you were going to join 4 different factions, and when you join that faction, you would do missions with that faction, and sometimes with those missions you would run into other factions that other people will be a part of. So it was kind of a little bit multiplayer, kind of PvE. It was like a mixture of the two, and it sounded, in my opinion, just from that description, it sounded pretty cool. But of course, when they brought this build to Activision absolutely hated it, and they told them to scrap the entire product and go figure out something else to do. Future Tell, I'm cutting in here because I don't think I really stress enough when the campaign was actually cut. I mean, just look at this article. It says at the beginning of 2018. The game literally dropped in October 2018. So just realize that when we're talking about when this campaign was cancelled. Now, we'll never know if this was all on Activision just stopping Treyarch from doing what they want to do with their own game, or if it was actually that bad that it needed to be scrapped. We won't really know, so potentially this could be on Activision, or what, I mean, just based on history, I feel like it was more likely to be on Activision, stopping Treyarch from trying anything new with campaign. Now, regardless of the case, this of course sent Treyarch into a frenzy because they just got their entire campaign canceled. Like, they had to stop that altogether, and at this point they were already almost a year out from when the game is supposed to be coming out, so they're scrambling to try to figure out what do we do to replace the campaign. And this of course is where Blackout comes, and also the extra zombies maps that we had on launch, because as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, what was supposed to replace the campaign was Blackout and having 4 zombies maps at launch. And initially this seemed like an absolute good thing, right? Who even plays the campaign? I'll take more zombies map over a campaign any day of the week, and it seemed like it was all good. But little did we know heading into that is just the mess that Black Ops 4 was really in, because when it came time for the game to come out, unfortunately, especially for the zombie side of thing, the game was an utter mess, and it constantly crashed. Whether you were doing high rounds, especially Easter eggs, or just playing casually, the game just constantly crashed over and over, and it was at a point for many people that was unplayable. And this of course was a huge turnoff to the game mode, and because of this, a lot of people just completely stopped playing the game. Now, to be be fair here, it wasn't entirely the crashing's fault that so many people didn't like Black Ops 4 Zombies. There's definitely some decisions that they made inside the game itself that weren't the greatest, but at the same time, this was one of the major reasons why a lot of the player base fell out. And with this, it had a very, very poor launch, and the rest of the season really didn't pick up past that. And because of this, Black Ops 4, especially for the Zombies game mode, kind of just flopped. And this was unfortunate, but luckily for Treyarch, they could pick up their mess and go try to right the wrongs that they made in their next game to come out in 2021. And I'm sure people will realize that, hey, Treyarch didn't release a game this year, and you would be right, because right after Black Ops 4's big ol' mess that happened, instead of Activision just saying, hey Treyarch, go figure out your game, you have 3 years to make your game, go do that and we'll bounce back real good, right? Instead, what they did was they saw that Sledgehammer was making Call of Duty 2020, but for some reason it was a complete mess, and it wasn't going to be able to be launched in the 2020 window. And because of this, who does Treyarch send in to fix everyone else's mess? Well, of course, it's Treyarch. Who else? And because of this, Treyarch had to hurry up because they just released a game in 2018 and they were just finishing up the DLC cycle when they're told that, hey, wait, you gotta actually release a game in a year and a half. And that alone is definitely not a good thing. And to me, this is the main reason why Cold War had so many of the problems that it did. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan of Cold War, but one of the major problems across the board was a lack of content, and even when we got that content, a lot of it wasn't original. This was true for multiplayer. Campaign was also limited in content, one of the shortest campaigns we'd ever seen before, and then especially in Zombies, it was hurt the worst once again for it being the third mode, the one that's taken care of last. And this was seen at launch where we only had one map, unlike how we've seen in the past, not just with Black Ops 4, but many games before where they dropped multiple maps on launch, but it got only worse throughout the seasons because instead of just giving us 4 round-based maps that we normally got throughout a season, instead one of those were thrown out for Outbreak, which was reused Fireteam maps, which was, the mode was fine, don't get me wrong, but it's just very, very reused, and it kind of kept that same vibe through the round base too. We had Firebase Z, a ton of reused assets from the campaign. There was Mauer de Towen, also reused from the campaign, and finally Forsaken, a lot of reused content from the campaign. And this really hurt because not only was there a very limited amount of content that we got throughout the season, but a lot of it was not original, and this was just not a good thing. After the Cold War season, it wrapped up their Call of Duty game, and now we are waiting to see their next game, hopefully in 2023, which sounds great, right? They're finally going to get their 3-year cycle back to make their game exactly how they want it with as much time as they need to make it, right? Well, I don't know, because currently there's a little something happening right now, because we currently have Vanguard, and if some people had noticed, which is probably a regrettable thing, but you may have noticed that it has a Zombies game mode in it, and this Zombies game mode was not made by Sledgehammer. But of course, who does Activision have working on this Zombies game mode? Of course, it's Treyarch, because Treyarch's always there to save the day for everybody else. They can never just work on their own stuff. And this is something I'm worried about. Now, of course, we don't know how this is going to affect the development of their next game, but honestly, I just hope it doesn't, but I'm not hopeful that it does, because how are you going to be working on someone else's game, trying to figure out their engine, how it works, and adjusting everything to work for your game mode, but then also be developing your own game at the same time? Now, we can see that potentially there are things that Treyarch are doing, like they're just not putting nearly as many resources into the Zombies game mode as they would in their own game, and also it seems potentially that the zombie team working on the Zombies game mode isn't the full traditional Zombies team, and potentially they are working on their next game. But of course, we don't know in the end how much this is going to affect their next game, which is just worrisome. And this is the reason why a couple videos back I made a video saying that they should just cancel Vanguard Zombies, because like it's at a point where people don't even like the game mode, but then on top of that it's only going to affect Treyarch's next game. So let's just cancel it and let Treyarch work on their own game for once, right? I still strongly stand by that because I just want to see Treyarch do their own work at their own pace with as much time as they need. Because let's be honest, the last time that Treyarch has had a decent developmental cycle was back during Black Ops 3. Like, for reals, Black Ops 3 was the last time where they completely got what they wanted. Now, there were issues with development. I'm not saying that. They have came out. There was issues with the campaign there too, but it doesn't change the fact that it was the best time they had to develop. They didn't have only a year and a half to make a game. They didn't have to scrap their entire campaign or anything like that. Like, that was the last time they had a full year to make their game. And honestly, to me, Black Ops 3 was one of the best games that we've ever got in the history of Call of Duty. And to me, I think like if Treyarch, they just give them that chance once again to make a game without any interruptions, then I honestly think their game could be great again. I think that Treyarch still has the ability to make a great Call of Duty game, but as long as Activision's here to hold them back, I don't know if it'll ever happen.